Minister, thank you for your time and thank you for being here. Recently, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel said that she refuses to have an European fortress against migrants, and Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orbán, replied that he doesn't want to import problems, referring to refugees. Don't you think that if all the European countries would respect the refugee resettlement quota, including Hungary, because you are not respecting it anymore, probably migration could be an opportunity and not a problem anymore, and could be a managed problem?
We look at migration as a issue with very serious security aspects. If you look back to the recent couple of years of the European Union, you will see that there were 29 major terrorist attacks committed by persons with a migratory background, be them first, second, or third generation migrants, killing 330 people and causing injuries to an additional 1,300. This is partly because of the fact that there are 1.5 million people arrived to the European Union in the recent years without any kind of control or check. We don't know who they are. We don't know with what organizations they were in contact. We don't know what kind of ideas they represent. So this is a very serious security issue. And if you are not able to regain the ability to control the external borders of the European Union, then this security challenge, this security concern will stay there with us. You know, we have an obligation in the European Union, especially in the Schengen area, that we have to protect the external border of both of the European Union and the Schengen area as well. So when we build a fence on our border, when we make it clear that the only way to enter the territory of Hungary is the legal way, then we do not only protect Hungary, we do not only protect the European Union, but we comply with our European obligations. So asking us not to protect our border, asking us to allow illegal migrants into the territory of the European Union is not only dangerous, but is totally contradicting the common European rules and the treaties we have committed to. So in the future, we will keep on protecting our border. As President Trump told Prime Minister Orbán during their recent phone conversation, Prime Minister, keep that border strong. President can be sure that we will keep that border strong. We'll make it sure that the only way people come to Hungary is a legal way, and we will not allow any illegal migrants to come to the territory of Hungary. For us, security is the #1 issue. For us, maintaining or preserving the security of Hungary and the Hungarian people is the most important issue. So we will not allow anybody to undermine the security and the safety of the Hungarian people.
According to President Donald Tusk of the European Council, the number of migrants illegally entering the EU have dropped 96% since 2015. So this is a positive news about the legal migration process. So why, although those numbers, immigration is still one of the most difficult topics to face for Europe, but also for the United Nations and for this global compact?
Because in certain territories of Greece, now the situation is getting very similar to the one in 2015, when there were hundreds of thousands of migrants entered the territory of EU through Greece. There's an alternative route being under formation in the Western Balkans region through Albania, Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Montenegro. There are still NGOs organizing ships fully packed with illegal migrants on the Mediterranean to come illegally to Europe. That's how they strengthen basically the business model of the smugglers. And there's a 30 to 35 million people living in the very close neighborhood of the European Union, either in North Africa or in Middle East, in a situation where they can easily make a decision to hit the road, and if they hit the road towards Europe. These are persons who are already living as refugees in some countries, or internally displaced persons, or people living on humanitarian aid. And if we are not clear that the only way to enter the territory of EU is the legal way, then it's going to be translated for these people by smugglers that it is an open invitation on behalf of the European Union for them to come. And this is something we have to avoid. We cannot take this challenge in the future.
United States of Europe, are they still possible? And in this context, do you think that Dublin regulation needs to be renewed or not? What is the position of your country?
Well, Dublin regulations must be renewed for sure, because Dublin regulations had been put in place when the situation was totally different. Dublin regulation must be modernized and must be adapted to the new, entirely new situation. Our basic approach is that new Dublin regulation must concentrate on how to protect the borders. Dublin regulations must concentrate on establishing hotspots already outside of the territory of EU in order to make it possible to make the decision about who is allowed to come to Europe and who is not already outside of the territory of the EU. And Dublin regulations must not contain any quotas, especially they must not contain obligatory quotas, and they must not take away sovereign rights of countries to make their own decisions whom they would like to allow to enter the territory of the respective countries, and the sovereign rights of respective nations must not be taken away regarding with whom they want to live together and with whom not. So on the other hand, United States of Europe, you say, there's a very serious debate within the EU how to go forward. There's a federalist approach, the representatives of which say that we should form kind of a United States of Europe, so more integration, less rights, or less competencies of the member states. We are totally against that. We belong to the camp which is called the sovereignist one. We say that European Union can only be strong if the member states are strong. So building a strong European Union on weak member states, we think it's a dead-end street. It's impossible. So if we want a strong European Union, which we do want, then we have to create strong member states, because a strong integration can only be based on strong members.
There is something that Brussels should do to convince you to respect the refugee resettlement quota and to respect again the Schengen Agreement as it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. There is something that Brussels should do.
Well, we respect the Schengen Agreement. We are among those few who respect the Schengen Agreement, because if we had not respected it, we wouldn't have protected the Schengen area. So the Schengen Treaty says that if you are located at the external border of the Schengen area, as we are, then it is your obligation, it is your core obligation to make it sure that your border is only crossed through the official border crossing stations with the proper documentation during opening hours. And we are complying with that. And those who say that the borders should be open for illegal migrants, those weaken the Schengen area. And when it comes to the quotas, they are unacceptable. And we will definitely go against them. But we are not alone, because the 4 Central European countries are totally unanimous on that: Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary. And if you have listened to the statements of the currently governing Italian and Austrian parties, you see that the idea of quotas is over, is a failure. And instead of concentrating on pushing the quotas, which definitely do not work.
But it wasn't a failure because other countries didn't respect it?
The obligatory quota is a failure because, number one, it takes away the sovereignty of the part of sovereignty of member states. Number two, it's an open invitation to the migrants. And number three, it's a security challenge. And even those countries in the European Union who are very loud on the necessity of the quotas and who are attacking very loudly us who are against the quotas, they have fulfilled up to like 25%. So if it is such a great decision, such a great way to move forward, why they have not totally fulfilled it? Because it does not work out.
Last question. Last year here in the United Nations, you attended the International Symposium on Cultural Diplomacy. And you said that there is a rising Christianophobia around the world. Don't you think that at the same time in Europe we are living a rising Islamophobia against refugees, migrants, and Muslim citizens? Don't you think that there is also this kind of phobia?
You know, if you look at the facts and figures, you see that 4 out of 5 persons who are killed because of their personal belief and religion are Christians. If you look at the developments in the Middle East, where Christian communities are forced to leave their homes, especially that was the case under ISIS. Or if you look at the destiny of the Christian communities in that region, you will see that Christianity unfortunately became the most persecuted religion on earth. Being a Christian means, though, that you must not be anti-something. You must not be anti-something. So when I argue in favor of the necessity to protect the Christian communities, when I argue in favor of protecting Christianity, I don't agree against anyone else. We have very good friends in the Muslim community, personally as well. We are in a very good relationship with Turkey, for example. The foreign minister is a personal good friend of mine. We have a very good cooperation with the North African countries, among them the Muslim countries. Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco are very good cooperating partners of ours, based on mutual respect and mutual trust. And you know, many times I envy the emotion, the emphasis, how our Muslim friends argue in favor of the necessity to protect their communities. And I respect that very much. And I think that this should be the level of emotion and the level of emphasis we Christians should protect our communities. But these two don't go against each other.
So there is no Islamophobia in Europe?
Unfortunately, there are many kinds of phobias in Europe and many kinds of anti-feelings. But what I tell you is that our culture, our country, our nation, our people are always representing the approach of mutual respect. And I really do hope that mutual respect will be a widespread phenomenon in Europe in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.